Understanding networking is a circular for any inspiring hacker. In many situations, you will be hacking something over a network, and a good hacker needs to know how to connect to and interact with that network. For example, you may need to connect to a computer with your internet protocol address hidden from Viv, or you may need to redirect a target's domain name system DNS queries to your system. These kinds of tasks are relatively simple but require a little Linux network know-how. So this lecture shows you some essential Linux tools for analyzing and managing networks during your network hacking adventures. So analyzing networks with ifconfig here, ifconfig here, as you can see here. So actually, I will uh, stop my network here for now. Here, as you can see here, for more understanding here. So the ifconfig command is one of the most basic tools for examining and interacting with active network interfaces. You can use it to query your active network connections by simply entering ifconfig in the terminal. Try it yourself and you should see output like similar to this. If not, this means you have more Ethernet adapters, or you have VLAN adapters as well. There's no problem. It's a usual thing. So as you can see here, the ifconfig command shows some useful information about the active network interfaces on the system. At the top of the output is the name of the first detected interface, AT-0, and which is so short for Ethernet 0 here. This means Ethernet 0. So Linux start counting at 0 rather than 1 as some programming languages. Actually, a wide range of programming languages. So this is the first wired network connection. So this means 0. So if there were a more wired Ethernet interface, they will show up in the output using the same format here, like that ATH1 or ATH2, like that, or ATH3. So, and so on. So the type of network being used, Ethernet here, is listed next, followed by hardware address and an address. So this is the globally unique address and stamped on every piece of network hardware. In this case, the network interface card, NIC, usually referred to as the Media Access Control, MAC. As you can see here, this is the MAC address of my Ethernet 0 adapter. So this MAC address can be changeable, but it's usually unique for every network interface controller. So the second line contains information on the IP address currently assigned to that network interface. In this case, 198 to 168, 58, and 129 here. And we have the broadcast here as well, broadcast IP address, which is the address used to send out information to all IPs on the subnet. Finally, we have network mask, netmask here, which is used to determine what part of the IP address is connected to the local network. You will also find more technical information in this section of the output, but it's beyond the scope of the Linux networking basics section. Here, you will learn later about this. So the next section of the output shows another network connection called LOW. So which is short of the loopback here address, and is sometimes called localhost. This is special software address that connects to your own system. Software and services not running on your system can't use it. You will use law to test something on your system, such as your own web server. So the localhost is generally represented with IP address 128.0.0.1, as you can see here. So this is not commented because it will not show anything output here. So the third section of our interface, if you're using a notebook and you have a VLAN adapter, wireless adapter, this will appear you only if you have a wireless adapter, interface or adapter. But in my case, I have not wireless adapter because this is the virtual machine here I'm using. And if you install to your laptop computer here, you will see like that VLAN 0 here. So we can check wireless network devices with IWconfig. If you have a wireless adapter, you can use the IWconfig command to gather circular information for wireless hacking, such as the adapter's IP address here. Let me check. So, such as the wireless adapter IP address here, its MAC address, what mode it's in, and more. So the information you can glean from this command is particularly important when you are using wireless hacking tools like AirCrackNG here, like that. So using the terminal, now let's look at some wireless devices with EWconfig here. EWconfig. As you can see here, we have no wireless extensions. So the output here tells us that the only network interface with wireless extension is VLAN 0 if you have VLAN 0, but in my case I have not because it's a virtual machine. We can change network information as well. So being able to change your IP address and other network information is a useful skill because it will help you access other networks while appearing as a trusted device on these networks. For example, in a denial of service DOS attack, you can spoof your IP so that the attack appears to come from another source, thus helping you evade IP capture during forensic analysis. So this is the relatively simple tasks in Linux, and it's done with the ifconfig command. Changing your IP address. To change your IP address, enter ifconfig followed by the interface you want to reassign and the new IP address you want to assign to the interface. So in my case, for example, to assign IP address, some IP address to 80*0 here, and then enter your IP address 128. What was our first IP address here? As you can see, our default IP address is 129. Let's change it to 115 here. And 58 120 actually 115 here. As you can see, operation is not confirmed. For doing this, sudo here, kali and password. As you can see here, Linux will not return anything to us. When you do this correctly, Linux will simply return the command prompt and say nothing. So this is a good thing here. And then you can again check your network connections with ifconfig here, and you should see see that your IP address has changed to new IP address. As you can see here, our IP address is last number was 129, and this is now 115 here. So you can also change your network masks, net masks, and broadcast address with ifconfig command. For instance, if you want to assign the same AT#0 interface with net masks 255.255.0.0 and the broadcast address to 192.186 and 0.1.255, then you should type this command in your terminal. For example, config, and let's assign our Ethernet adapter here, and the first our IP address here, 120 168 101.115 or 230 point, for example. This is just ordinary round number. 115 here. We should use sudo for this command, and actually let's change the netmask as well here. Netmask 255.255.0.0. As you can see here, we have deleted the last 255 part of from our command. You will learn all about this, what is netmasks and what is broadcast. I will just show you how to use that. And broadcast here 192.168.1.255. As you can see here, we changed our IP address. Once again, if you done correctly, everything correct, Linux responds with a new command prompt here. So now enter ifconfig command again to verify that each of the parameters has been changed accordingly. Here, as you can see here, we changed all of them. So in Linux, we can swap the IP address as well. Actually, in next lecture we will do it, so I'm waiting you in next lecture.